You now tuned in to the Gumptown Podcast. I'm your boy Doug B. We ain't got nothing to talk about, but we got something to talk about. Let's go. Good people, good people, good people. Welcome back to the Gumptown Podcast, episode 141. I'm Doug B. If you tuned in to this podcast, thank you for your time and your attention. I really appreciate you giving this podcast a shot. Today's guest is the founder and owner of Unlimited Potential Therapeutic Services, LLC. I'm looking forward to this conversation, and I'm sure we'll all be inspired by her story. Let's chop it up with Dr. Ashley Cochran. Dr. Cochran, how's it going?
It's going. How are you?
Glad to hear that. All is well on my end, too. First things first, thank you for taking time out of your schedule to chop it up with me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited. This is my first time being on a podcast, so I'm excited.
Yes, ma'am. Of course, here to talk about all the great things you have going on with Unlimited Potential Therapeutic Services, LLC. But before we talk about the business, let's get to know the woman behind the brand. Born in Selma, raised in Millbrook. What was your upbringing like?
I had a pretty cool upbringing, I guess. Both of my parents are from the Dallas County area. So my dad is from Beloit, which is outside of Selma, and my mom is from Selma. So I was born in Selma, but my dad went into the military right after, and so we moved to Germany and then moved to Montgomery and then moved to Millbrook. So whenever people ask me where I'm from, I always say Millbrook just because I was in Millbrook since third grade, and that's where I graduated high school. I grew up doing, pretty much what normal kids do. I was involved in a lot of extracurricular activities, and I knew I wanted to be a social worker in the eighth grade. And so I just kind of, forged ahead on that path from there.
That's great. I appreciate you for sharing your stories, and hats off to your dad for his service, serving our country. I much respect him for doing that, serving in the military. So you got a chance to, born in Selma, got a chance to travel to Germany, and ended up in Millbrook. So do you have any memories from Germany?
Not really. It's funny because the things I do remember, they probably don't. I don't know, but like one thing that I just like distinctly remember is the way that the houses are there. Some of the places that you live, like your landlord will live in the same building that you're in or the same home that you're in. And so I remember the landlord like always giving us like little pieces of chocolate as kids. But that's like one of my memories that kind of sticks out. But I was there when I was, pretty young. So yeah.
Okay. Pretty cool memory. So they was handing out chocolate in Germany, and you got a chance to experience an international life, and ended up in Millbrook where you graduated from Stanhope Elmore. And after you
Whoop,
graduated,
whoop.
yep. Hey, I went to Lee, and y'all used to kick our butt back in the day in football. So I got to respect Stanhope Elmore. Yes, ma'am. So after you finish up high school at Stanhope Elmore, come on down the road to the Alabama State University. What was the HBCU experience like for you?
It was amazing. It was different for me. Going to school at Stanhope at the time, it was a majority white school, and so going to a HBCU was different, but like refreshing all at the same time. So very exciting to be in the atmosphere with other kids who looked like me, and were just like smart, brilliant individuals. So that was great. Like I'm really happy that I made that decision.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Nothing like it. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Just getting a chance to be in school with people that look like you and I from all over, from the
Mm-hmm.
South, East Coast, West Coast, Midwest. And it was just cool meeting everyone from those different areas of life because you got a chance to learn new perspectives, new ways of thinking. And those memories and people you meet in college, I mean, they just last for a lifetime. So we had a good old time over there on South Jackson Street, when you say.
For sure.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. So while you were in school, did you get involved with any student life, any organizations?
Yes. So I'm a Zeta. Um, and that, probably is the most important organization that I was a part of when I was at Alabama State, but I also was a member of like an honor society. I was in the honors program. I did some other social work clubs as well when I got into my major. So I was pretty involved, and I also worked quite a bit too. I used to work at McDonald's while I was in college. So I had a nice little balance of activities while I was also trying to get my studies.
Okay, good stuff. So you had a job at McDonald's and you participating in student life and student activities. Hey, it sounds like to me, Dr. Cochran, you weren't the typical broke college student. You actually making some money back then. That's all right.
I was trying to get a little money. I had to be able to afford my little sidekick cell phone that
The
T-Mobile had.
sidekick. Oh, you just took them back right there. They don't know nothing about that. Hey, I never had a sidekick, but I had the Motorola Razor, but I remember those but them sidekicks were so cool. I mean they were like mini laptops, like little computers in your pocket.
Mhm.
Absolutely. So that's amazing. So you got a chance to do all that good stuff, graduated from the Alabama State University, went on to attend UConn. Was that online or on campus?
It was on campus. They had a recruiter come. The social work department at Alabama State had a recruiter come in, and honestly, I'm a first generation college student, so I didn't even know what a master's was. Like
Hmm.
I had no thought of, oh, when I finish school, I got to go back to school. Like I didn't even know that that was a thing. But they had a recruiter come in and she talked to us about Connecticut and what it was like. At the time, I was kind of like, like that sounds cool. Like I could go and live somewhere else for a little bit and see how it is. And so myself and some other ASU students went up there to get our masters, and I'm happy that I made that decision. It was also like just to go from HBCU to a PWI was something else, but I'm glad that I made that decision.
Hmm. Absolutely. Good stuff. And hats off to you for having the courage to make that decision to leave Alabama and go to Connecticut. And like you said, go from a HBCU to PWI. I know that was a culture shock in itself. So just in terms of the city, I think is in Stores, Connecticut. Is that the city that UConn is in?
So the main campus is in Stores,
Mhm.
but the the School of Social Work is in West Hartford,
Okay.
which is right by Hartford. And so West Hartford is a very like rich city or town. They have like a lot of towns there. And so it was very interesting to see how people lived in that area compared to like what I knew to be my own life. But it was a really good experience, very motivating, and eye opening for.
Right. Okay. Sounds good. West Hartford. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I appreciate you for sharing that just in terms of the locations and so school of social work was in West Hartford and you got a chance to be in a affluent town. You got exposed to some different ways of living. Like that's what it's all about. Getting a chance to experience life and exposure. And like you said, it was very motivating. So I appreciate you for sharing that. I didn't lose you there.
No, I'm still here.
Oh, okay. All right. I'll I'll be sure to edit that out. So graduate from UConn with your master's and going to attend USC. Are you still currently there or did you finish up? I'm just basing it off your Facebook profile. I'm just
Oh
going.
no, you're good. So um, I attended USC in 2017, I think. Finished in 2019. That is where I got my doctorate from. Um, I was really hesitant to get a doctorate. Like I had always said that like I didn't need one. Like what was the point in going back to school for that? But their doctoral program had like a focus in innovation and leadership, and there were some things like about in terms of like business and social work and like how the two work together, being like a social entrepreneur that I didn't learn in other areas. And so I got really just excited about being able to grow in that way. And so I applied and was accepted. And so I finished up there 2019. It was like a hybrid program. So um, I did a lot of the work. They had synchronous classes, so classes where you're like online and present, in the classroom, and then we would have to like fly out for different like intensive courses. So I was able to get some of the feel of the USC campus as a Trojan there as well. So it's pretty cool.
Wow, that does sound cool. You got a chance to fly out to LA and be on campus. So just what was it like being on that campus? I'm pretty sure it's massive. I've never been to USC
It's
campus.
huge. It's a huge campus. And so that was crazy. And then just getting to like meet with other students and also just see how LA is. And LA is pretty dirty, honestly. Like it's not as glamorous as I thought it would be. There are some like glamorous areas, but like there's some really like dirty areas too. So it was really interesting to be there and just kind of experience a little bit of what life is like on the West Coast. I prefer the East Coast. So being on the West Coast and the East Coast, kind of seeing the differences. Like I think if I had to live somewhere else, it would be on the East Coast.
Yes, ma'am. I definitely understand that. I mean, I went out to LA for the first time late last year myself, and to your point, I expected it to be like this glamorous place, and yeah, it's a little dingy out there, but
Hmm.
the weather is beautiful though, so I understand
Yeah.
why people love
Yeah.
it. I understand why people love it out there, but yeah, I definitely understand where you're coming from with that. So no, that's good stuff. So you had a chance to get your education at Alabama State, UConn, USC. You got quite a resume, Doc. Got to tell you that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. So present day, you are the founder and the owner of Unlimited Potential Therapeutic Services LLC. What you got going on over there?
So at Unlimited Potential Therapeutic Services, which I call UP Therapy for short, I work with children and their families, just helping people move towards their fullest potential. I have two other clinicians on staff with me, so that I can serve more children and families in the River Region area. I have been in business. This is my third year. Um, but I most recently purchased like a building. So I have like a business property now, so that I can serve more children and families. I was previously renting like a smaller office space. So we are, accepting new clients. And I see kids and their mamas and their siblings and their dads. And so we can work with the entire family. I think that sometimes when people think about who their client is or who needs therapy, they think of just one person. This one person is the problem. This one person has a problem. This one person is causing an issue within the family. But in social work, we learn that families are systems. And so we try to service the entire family in some shape or form. And so even if the child is the primary client, the person that's coming in for weekly, bi-weekly, monthly sessions, I still have conversations with their parents, not to like tell their business or say, oh, they came in and they talked about XYZ. Like I don't do that, but I do generally have conversations with parents and say, these are the things that we're working on, and these are some things that you can do. These are some tools, some tips, some coping skills that as a parent you can utilize that will help that family system, and in turn, help that child better be able to, manage their behavior or manage whatever clinical issues they might have.
Wow, you got some powerful stuff going over there up therapy, and I thought to you for being in that space, and I was hearing you talk just how you broke down family being a system, and just in terms of educating, in terms of giving the parents as well as the children the help, the advice that they need their fullest potential. I think that's some amazing stuff you got going on.
Thank you. Yeah, I teach at Alabama State now full time in the social work department, and I'm really passionate just about the field of social work. Period. Like I think that it's a very important field. Like I'm happy that I chose this as my career, and so being able to just constantly um train myself and receive training from others. I learn from students just as much as I teach them, and being able to engage in research, I bring all of that into my practice so that my clients and their families can benefit from it. So I don't take it for granted that I have this knowledge and this information base, because it comes from God, and it comes from the people that He's placed around me, so that I can continue to try to enhance my service delivery for people in our area.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's some powerful stuff. And so, what was it like being able for everything to come full circle for you to end up working at your alma mater? What was that experience like when you got the call and accepted the job?
Um, when they called me, I was so excited because, and it's really interesting because when I got my doctorate, I said there are two things that I'm not going to do. I'm not going to do therapy full time because I've worked as a social worker for many years and I've done therapy. And I was like, I'm not going to do therapy full time. And I'm also not going to teach. Like, so I don't, these are the two things that I'm probably not going to do full time, and those are the two things that I'm doing, and I love both of them. Being back at Alabama State is like being at home. So it's truly exciting to see, you know, fellow Hornets like on a daily basis. There's truly nothing like it, even with all of the changes that happened, from generation to generation, because I'm teaching a completely different generation, which is interesting, and a challenge in itself sometimes. But it's just so exciting to, feel like I'm giving back.
That's powerful stuff, Doc. And you said something key just then. You had your plans, and it's funny, like we have our plans, and then God laughs at our plans and redirects us most of the time for it, but it typically works out for the better, what I'm saying, for our betterment. So you said you weren't gonna teach, you weren't doing therapy, and God said, watch this.
Right.
That's amazing. No, that's great. So take us back to you in the eighth grade. That's when you said you wanted to become a social worker. Like what was it that had you intrigued in the eighth grade that you knew that this was the path that you were going to take?
I met a social worker. I still remember her name. I don't even know where she is. But her name was Joy Germanos. And she was an adoption social worker. And so I thought that social workers were basically baby snatchers. That's all I really knew. And I just felt like, wow, like what she does is she removes children from these terrible homes and places, and she finds these great homes and places them there, and then they live happily ever after, which is really not not what social work is at all. That's what I thought it was. And so I was like, that is what I want to do. Like, I want to help children, be able to do that. And in my mind, I was like, ooh, I'm going to own an adoption agency. I always knew that I wanted to have some sort of business. I didn't know like what kind. Like, at one point, prior to me saying, oh, I want to be a social worker, I was like, I'll own a hair salon, but I don't do hair well. I feel like that's a gift, and it's a gift that I don't have. Um, and so when I met Joy, and learned that she was a social worker and she was helping children and families, I was like, that's what I'm gonna do. And ever since then, I was like, however I can do it, that's what I'm gonna be doing. I, had a lot of people say I'm too sensitive to do that kind of work. I had people say I'm gonna be broke, I'm gonna be poor, I'm gonna burn out. And, I'm very proud that I have, worked to, work really hard, but also have some sort of boundaries. Making sure that I am participating the best that I can in self care on a regular basis so that I can continue to do this work. I'm in it for the long haul.
That's powerful stuff, and that's great that you knew back then what you wanted to do, and you didn't let people negative talk, people saying you're gonna burn out, people saying you're too sensitive, and I mean it happens like that sometimes, Doc. People don't see your vision, and it's easy for people to put their limits, well, attempt to put their limits on you. Hats off to you for not letting them do that and rocking and rolling and ended up where you are. Much respect.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. So whenever I have entrepreneurs on the platform like yourself, I like to talk about three things, Doc. The aha moment, action, and audacity. So take us back to your aha moment when you first had the idea to take your love for social work and turn it into a business, what would go on to become Up Therapy.
So my aha moment was when I was on maternity leave. I have a 2 year old, I have a 9 year old, and I have a 2 year old. And so when I had my 2 year old, I was working for a foster care agency, and I love the work there. I love the work that they do, and I enjoyed my time there. I actually still PR in there. Um, but I knew I was like, I think that this is the time. Like I was watching Game of Thrones. I love Game of Thrones. So I was watching Game of Thrones. Um, while I was on maternity leave. And I was like, I think that, this is going to be the season that I go ahead and start trying to, start a business. I reached out to one of my classmates from Alabama State who has a thriving therapy practice in Montgomery. And he, talked to me a little bit about his path and how he got there. And I was like, it's going to be hard because I'm a single parent. And I was like, it's going to be hard, but I have a really good support system. I have great friends here, my parents, so I was like, I think I can do it. And so I just started filling out paperwork and stuff and started trying to figure out what the next steps were.
Wow, that's amazing. So you had your aha moment during maternity leave, and that's great. And just in terms of the action portion, which is the next thing I was going to ask about, sounds like you got right to it. You didn't spend a whole lot of time overthinking, overanalyzing. You got right to work, getting things off the ground, and coming up with a name and a logo.
I'm a risk taker. I'm a risk taker. And one of the things that was really important to me when I was doing my research for my doctoral program, it was centered around preventing homelessness for children. And so I had formulated this nonprofit that would assist, with that. But I also knew that there was a need for therapy services that were not only good in quality but also affordable. Someone who would take Medicaid, because when I worked with foster youth, I knew how hard it was for me to find people who would, service my clients who were in foster care. And I was like, that's what I'm gonna do. Like I'm gonna fulfill a need that I know is here in Montgomery. I love working with children. I'm very passionate about working with children. And so I said, I'm going to work part time at my job. I talked to my boss about it and kind of let her know where my head was. She was supportive. And so we figured out how I could, work part time so that I could transition to doing my business full time.
Wow, that's powerful stuff. And hats off to you for being a risk taker, Doc. I mean, because most people, myself included, I've been guilty of it. We are most most of the time risk averse. Like we spend so much time overthinking, overanalyzing, worrying about what's gonna go wrong without realizing, hey, I mean, anything you start new, you're gonna be terrible at it. I mean, when we was babies, we were terrible at walking and talking, but we figured it out. So hats off to you for just
That's right.
yes, ma'am. Having that risk taking, that risk taking ability, that gene, and not being afraid to fail. Because in the end, do you really fail if you learn a valuable lesson that propel you to the level you're trying to get to? Not really fail you.
That's true. Because talking about fear, I'm
Right.
I'm scared today. I'm scared every day. I'm like, what am I doing? Like who told me that I could do this? But I just try to push past that.
You told you could do this. That's all you need, doc. I mean, that's something that I'm learning day by day. Like all you need is your approval and just go for it. And the crazy thing about it is once you get started, your help, support you need, it all falls into place. So hats off to you for getting started and being an inspiration to someone else out there who wants to get into the same space you in. Because all it takes is for most of us to see somebody else doing it to know it's possible, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Yes, ma'am. And in the last portion, audacity, it's one thing to have an idea and act on it, which are both great things, but to put it out to the world, to be praised or criticized, who or what gave you that courage, that audacity?
You know, God, uh, because he made me into this crazy person with this brain that's just like always working and dreaming up ideas. Also, like my parents are probably the greatest business owners I know. My mom has had a home daycare since I was second or third grade, I think. And she, still has a home daycare to this day. Miss Ingrid from the Sweet Cart, who was talking about her mom's home daycare on your podcast, my mom and her mom know each other because they both, are in that same field. But seeing my mom and my dad, because my dad, has supported her day one. And as a retiree, he, is able to help out a lot with her business. But just seeing like how they have, been able to like make a living, like take care of me and my siblings, and she's doing something that she is passionate about and that she loves. I didn't experience her, coming, well, not even coming home because she was already at home because it's a home daycare, but um sometimes people do things just to do them, but they don't necessarily care to do it or they're unhappy. And so I hadn't experienced like my parents being like unhappy with their like just completely like unhappy with their work. And so that I think just helped create like that audacity in me, and helped make me be like an audacious business owner. So
Hmm. Powerful stuff. So you had your mom as a at home example. Like you said, she ran a home daycare, successful home daycare business. Dad was there supporting her from day one. So just having your parents successful as a successful business owner, and of course, first and foremost, God, like you stated first, that's all you needed. Like you just had that. You had, and it's so interesting, Doc, because we always hear in terms of it takes a village from the context of being a child, but it takes a village when we adults. So hats off
yeah.
to you for having that good village around you and using that and using what you saw them do successfully as fuel to get your business off the ground.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. So you being a therapist, you been in this space where you always helping and pouring into others. How do you decompress, Doc?
So I really like cooking and baking. Um, I was actually talking to some colleagues about that because they were like, that sounds like work. And it is in a sense, but because I have so many things in my head, I have everybody's information in my mind. Whenever I am like cooking or baking something that's new, like I'm looking at recipes and things like that, when I do that, I'm I'm focused on the recipe. Like I'm focused on what I'm making and I'm really excited about like how it's going to come out and like if my kids are going to like it or if my friends or my family are going to enjoy it. And so that is, one of the ways that I decompress is by doing that. I also like to walk. I live near Shakespeare Park here in Montgomery, and Shakespeare is my favorite part here. And so I love to get out there and go for a walk. I work out occasionally. I try to do 3 days a week. Slacking on it. It's been like 1 or 2 days a week these last couple of weeks because I've been busy, but definitely trying to get some physical activity in is helpful for me to decompress. And I listen to trash podcast. I don't not yours. Yours is not trash. But I do listen to trash podcasts. So like Joe Budden, The Read, things like that that are they're just talking about things that, whatever, or watching like reality TV. So things that people would think that like I don't watch or listen to or whatever, those are the things I actually do because they take my mind away from like the day-to-day hustle, I guess, if you want to call it that. So yeah.
Okay, and that's great stuff. And that's good that you've identified those things to help you decompress, help you take your mind off of things because I can only imagine just being a business owner and also being an educator in that field just like it's I'm pretty sure it's like 1,000 tabs be open in your mind on a daily basis. So that decompression I know is pivotal for you to stay afloat and for you to be the best version of yourself. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. So you've done great things with Up Therapy, and I know great things are coming down the pipeline, which leads to my next portion, vision. What are some of your short-term and long-term goals for the business you feel comfortable sharing?
So short term, I am working on some different things. One of the things that I've been like mulling over in my mind and kind of talking with people and figuring out how I'm going to do it is some sort of like conference for kids, because we have lots of conferences for adults. And so I want to do something like that for the community of Montgomery with children. Um, so that's something that I'm working on short term. And of course, just getting more clients for my clinicians that I have. So that they, are seeing more people. Um, Long term, I want to see an unlimited potential in more than one location. I think that there is a need. I think that, of course, like right now, I primarily see children and their families, but I know that there are other specific populations that are in need of services. So, like children of incarcerated parents, children who have parents who have special needs. There are just all sorts of different niches that I would love to, eventually have well-trained clinicians on staff that work with those particular populations, and have those, different satellite offices, spread across Alabama.
Yes, ma'am. Good stuff. Those are powerful goals, both short-term and long-term. I have no doubt you'll make them all come to fruition.
Thank you. I'm praying on it.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. As we wrap up the podcast, Doc, I want to ask $1 million question. I started this podcast to highlight the greatness connected to the city of Montgomery and River region. Whether you were born here, lived here for a significant period of your life, be it college, military, or work, you being from the River region and going to school and at the Alabama State University. I'm going to ask you, what makes you the most proud to be from this part of the world, River region?
the people there's no one like southern people, like there's no other group of people like we are here. I love Montgomery. People who say anything negative about Montgomery, don't even sit by me, like I don't want to hear it. I love being here. I'm invested in this city. I love your podcast because it is, shedding light on so many like business owners, resources that are in our area, that are very important. There's a lot that's going on in Montgomery that people, if they just open their front door and walk outside, or talk to a neighbor, build community, I think that they would see a different side. This is not a boring place to be. It's not it's not a place where people can't grow. And I see growth happening all the time here, and that's what I love about this city.
Yes, ma'am. Powerful stuff. So how can people connect with you, Doc? What are your social media handles?
So, my social media handle is, for Instagram is Up Therapy AL. And you can find us on Facebook at Unlimited Potential Therapeutic Services. If you need to get in contact with me by phone or text, the number is 334-276-3205.
Yes, ma'am. Too easy. And of course, I'll put all of this information in the description of the episode. Hey, Dr. Cochran, thanks again for the conversation. I really appreciate you.
Thank you. I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to be here. I'm happy about this podcast. I love what you're doing with it. So I look forward to this episode and others after.
Yes, ma'am. Good people, that concludes another dope episode of the Gumptown Podcast. In the meantime, in between time, y'all know what to do. Be blessed, be safe, but most importantly, have the audacity to be you. Go. Thanks again for tuning in. I appreciate your time and your attention. Until next time.